hier in Altenberg aufgestellt, zusammen mit Francesco Friedrich.
Spitze 1:0.
Ich habe letztes Jahr aus dem Böde den Kampf mitgebracht. Ja, diesen Balsam.
Ja, genau. Bobsleigh, Europa, Spain, Fox, Bear. Skeleton-Weltcupfinale.
Welcome to Lillehammer in Norway, the venue for the penultimate race of the IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. It's 2 weeks in Lillehammer to round out the season for the bobsleigh fraternity after the skeleton ran its course today after. So 25 sleds in our entry for the first of the two races on this snowy Saturday lunchtime, but with track being covered all the way down, that shouldn't affect our race at all. So the 94 Winter Olympic venue, 1,300 metres, fairly short start, important to get in early, make sure you don't run too far down to the first corner, this little left-handed dink, turn 1. Then a gentle turn 2, turn 3, 90-degree right-hander, Start records dating back to February 1993, before the Games. Track record 2024. Out of corner 6, building up speed into the labyrinth. 7, the key corner here is 8, because it sets you up for 9 and 10. And 10 feeds into the short changeover into 11, down to corner 12. And the 12-13 crossover is key to speed further down. Exiting 13 cleanly, trying not to tap the wall before the right-handed 14, and then the 2 lefts that end, 2 pressure 15, single pressure 16, there's the line. Johannes Lochner setting a new track record 30 years after the Winter Games in 1994. So Pierre Luders here this week, coaching in the women's bobsleigh fraternity. Coaches Brianna Walker, who tied for gold this morning in the monobob race with America's Keisha Love. Keisha winner last year on this track. But now for the two-man, well, 25 sleds, including 3 drivers making their World Cup debut, and another returning. Not that one. Mickey Vogt returned earlier this season after his crash in Altenburg last year that put him out of action. Thoughts with the recovering Sandro Mikkel. I'm hoping that at some stage we see him maybe back in harness. Greg Jones there, back in the back seat of the Swiss sleds, but also learning to drive. So maybe in the run into Cortina in after Cortina in 2026, in the run into La Plan 2030, we'll see him back at the helm. So 2 sleds for Team GB, as Manuel Mitchell will be in the US sled. And they go off quite early, actually, Team USA. It is Mihai Tente of Romania with Pat Norton of Canada and Sun Kai-chi of China who go off first. Brad Hall gets a great start draw, 4th out in his 60th World Cup race, just ahead of Francesco Friedrich, so the ice should be good. And further down the order, newcomers from Israel, from Poland and from Canada, and the old man is back, Roman Heinrich for France. I'll pay for that later. I know. Getting race 7 of the IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup underway. It's also the European Championships, and that's important for Mihai Tentea and Gheorghe Ordaș of Romania. Raced here last year, Tentea. Finished in 16th place. First World Cup back after 2 decades away. Gets us underway with a 5:12 start. Now, again, cold overnight yesterday, so although it's warmer and humid now, or less cold and humid with the snowfall, the ice is hard and very fast. Out of the labyrinth, down into corner 10. Looking good for Tentea so far. Key to speed in the final corners is here, 13, not flopping too much off the exit, trying not to tap on the driver's left. Pretty hard with the speeds these sleds are doing. 132 kilometers an hour down at the bottom, and that's 82 miles an hour, 51.21. So a second off the record, which is a 50.29. Heading down into 13, that's the exit of 12, looking down towards 13. This is the exit of 13, late flop. You'll see that a lot. It's a short corner, probably wasn't quite so short for a 1994 spec sled. At the speed they're going nowadays, you're on and off in a heartbeat. So there's Mihai Tentea, our first man down. Next up for Canada, Pat Norton with Mike Evelyn behind him. Pat Norton has not raced on this track before. Mike Evelyn, in his 12th two-man World Cup, was with Taylor Austin last time out in Samoritz. So Canadians, as ever, moving men around, keeping everybody race fit and trying to find the best fits, best athlete with best driver combos for the World Championships. 5:13 start, so just a whisker behind Tentea. Well, there was no racing last week after Samoritz, so everybody came here and spent time in paid training, trying to learn the track. And when your rivals have spent a year here longer than you, or a couple of weeks last year longer than you, you're always going to be struggling a little bit for track knowledge. Nevertheless, right with Mihai Tentia. And Tentia has had 8 Europe Cup races on this track, as well as last year's World Cup, so bags of experience. Pat Norton doing a really good job here. Across the line, just 600s back. Lyndon Rush on the left, and Justin Cripps on the right. Happy with that one. It's not going to leave them in the leader's box at the end of the first heat, I don't think. But on the other hand, just 600s behind Mihai Tentia with lots of knowledge of the track. It was a good start and a good first run down in competition for Pat Norton. And they will be here, I'm assuming they'll be here next week as well. There is racing next week as well. Out of 13, steered off late and then counter-steered to try and stop the big slide into the wall. So all of that is cutting ice and just slowing the sled down a little. Next up from China, Sun Kai-chi. Well, Pat Norton in his 6th World Cup start, Sun in his 21st. He did race here last year. He and Chen Heng on the back of the sled again today, finished in 15th. This is Chen's 13th two-man World Cup. Best result this season is a 12th place finish, 5.07 getaway. Strong starting from the Chinese duo. Nice run through the quiet early corners. Out of 4, avoids too much of a tap into 5. On to 7, 8. Nice clean run down through the labyrinth, building the advantage. Out of 12, short shoot into 13. Not a bad exit from 13, tiny tap. Probably better than hauling the sled around. Second best speed, but he'll have the advantage of the line, 300ths of a second. So the top 3 now covered by 900ths of a second. It's going to be close. It always is. We are talking about fractional gains as ever at the top tier of any sport. So too with bobsleigh, skeleton. Little late off, didn't counter steer until he was on the straight. Just had a tiny little right-hand steer there to mitigate against the wall. Chen on the left, Sun on the right. Happy 60th World Cup start, that is, to Brad Hall. Taylor Lawrence makes his 15th two-man World Cup start. They combined for 6th place here last year. Graham Richardson watching in the background. Sean Olsen, their driving coach. It's been a strong season in 2- and 4-man so far. Not out of the top 6 all year long for Brad Hall. 5 dead start. Nicely out of 2 and 3 into corner 4. Avoids the tap. Comes in slightly left into 5. Nice even run through corner 6. Best speed into the labyrinth. He should be ahead of the previous 3 sleds. They're from outside of the top 10 in the World Cup rankings. Nice looking run so far. Flop off 13 and a tap. We'll see a lot of that. We did in the Monobob race, we did in Skeleton as well. Best speed we've seen, 82.7 miles an hour and a 50.76. So half a second off the all-time track record. And snowy conditions, we may not get to the record. Has he cut his finger? Ow, 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 ow. So did the start bar collapse again? Yes. Ow. And that is like slamming your finger in the door, because of course it's got your body weight on it. Just looking to see how badly split his finger is. Not ideal. 2 weeks here of intense competition to round out the regular season. Next up, 106th World Cup start for Francesco Friedrich. A 6-time European champion, a 4-time winner this season. And he's got the giant Alex Schuller behind him in his 30th two-man World Cup race. 28 medals for Schuller out of 29 previous starts with Friedrich. He is a winning machine, isn't he, Friedrich? 497 getaway, only 400s off the start record, and you know they are targeting that, the same as every other record on every other day. Best speed, little late height in the labyrinth, and a little tap and a skid into 9. Not as tidy a run as Brad Hall. A whisker more speed from the FES sled. It's been pretty forgiving. And a little meander down into 14 from Francesco Friedrich. Still has better speed. 2200s up, quarter second in front at the line. And a 50.50, quarter of a second off the track record. Well, Brad Hall's run looked tidier, but Friedrich's was faster. 97, a 97 start. Late off 13, gets the double hit, and then sled goes sideways and drives it into the centre onto 14. This is 15, holds the height, hold it, and drives off. Sometimes not pretty is fast, especially with Francesco Friedrich. He's the leader after the first 5 sleds. Race 7 of the IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. The European Championships here in Lillehammer in Norway. It's a 49th World Cup start for Patrick Baumgartner of Italy, and a 20th for his brakeman Rob Messier. And they were together last year. They combined for 10th place here in Lillehammer. Well, last year that was one of his best results. This year, 10th place is his worst result. 5:11 getaway. Really ramping up the programme. Baumgartner coming of age in a big way, and the start is reflecting that as well. 5:11, 4th best start out of the 6 sleds, but there won't be too many more going quicker than that. But he's losing ground fast against Friedrich. Taps in 9 as well. Sixth best speed. He is the 6th sled. That means slowest at this stage. 3rd best speed, coming back a little. And across the line in 5th place, ahead of Pat Norton. Not a big smile on the face of Simone Matazzo. See how the coaches are really wrapped up against the cold. It's a bit Samoritz cold here quite often, and today's not much different. So 5:11 start, 51.23 downtime. Drifting down from 12 to 13. And the exit of 13, the same flop as everybody else. Manny Mahata on the right. Driving the Allianz safety sled here this weekend. Looking good in latex again. Lycra, not latex. Sorry, wrong club. Next up, Cedric Follador and Luca Rolli for Switzerland. And Follador finished in 17th place last year. 3 Europe Cup appearances in 2019 and 2021, with 2 medals from 3 races, and last year's World Cup. So he's got decent knowledge of the track. 5:16 getaway. And in fact, many of our younger drivers have much better experience on this track than our older, more experienced World Cup stars, because it's been part of the junior campaign trail in Europe Cup, and before that for Skeleton in Intercontinental Cup for a number of years. Again, a little late into the labyrinth, taps going into 9. It's probably running faster than it was on the final day of training. We've had 2 deep below -10 overnight lows, which really hardens up the ice, changes the nature of the track. 51.23, 5th down. That's tied with Patrick Baumgartner. So 500 slower than Baumgartner at the start, but reeled in his Italian rival. So they're 200s behind Mihai Tintir, who's currently in 4th. So that's 3 sleds covered by 200s. And just 500s ahead of the Baumgartner Followed tie is Sun Kai-chi of China, who's currently in 3rd. Now, there's a lot of front runners still to come, but it already shows that this is going to be a tough little battle. 4 sleds, 500ths of a second. You missed a bit. So from Cedric Followed to Timo Röhne of Switzerland, got Greg Jones on the back of the sled. Greg's last 2-man race was in Winterberg a month ago. It's his 13th 2-man World Cup start. It's Timo's 15th. 8 Europe Cup races here, with a gold, 2 silvers and a bronze in the 2-man, and 8 4-man races as well over those weekends. 2 of them over 3 seasons. So 5:08 getaway. Again, another strong start, giving Röhne that acceleration that he needs. A little late on 4, taps onto 5. Out of corner 6, nice even parabola. Not too late out of 7. 8 to 9 is cleaner than we've seen from the last couple. And is he doing too much work to get the lines right? He knows the track. Swiss sleds are usually quick. It's not going in the right direction. 3rd best speed is looking better. 4th at the start, 3rd at the line, 51.05. Okay, not so bad. But still half a second away from Friedrich. Mind you, Brad Hall in 2nd is a 1/4 of a second away from Friedrich, so there's that. So he's 2900ths behind Brad Hall. Timo Röhne driving himself into 3rd. Plenty to tidy up there. You can really see the speed these sleds are carrying. Gonna have to go and have a look back between the runs and see what the speeds were back in '94. See if we can dig that out. Meanwhile, Jacobs-Kalender, 20th World Cup start in 2-man for the 22-year-old Latvian. Mats Miknes behind him, making his 90th 2-man race start. His 58th in the World Cup. And a 5:02. So obviously speed in the old legs still. He's an absolute monster, Mats Miknes. Jacobs-Kalender 9th place here last year. Tap and a skid there. And kind of sideways coming on to 6. Oh, and hard on to 7 as well. Tap before 7. Skidding into 9. Back of the sled is doing as much driving as Jacobs himself. 3rd at the start. Down to 9th on the splits. There's going to be a frown on his face when he gets out of the sled. 51.43. Sanders Prusis needs to find a razor, doesn't he? 51.43. Slowest run so far. That's Jacobs-Kalender. Got Well, the start was excellent, third fastest. And after that, not much to write home about. And again, just a little tap there. He's offline, going from 12 to 13. Not too much of a flop out of 13. But the damage was done by that stage. Early on, back end doing a lot of the driving. Adam Amour with older brother Issam behind him. Adam in the bronze medal position here last year with Benedikt Hertel on the sled. Race here in Europa Cup in 2022 and the World Cup last year. 11th two-man World Cup start for older brother Issam Amour. He was with Adam in Altenburg at the start of the season. They claimed the bronze medal together. Not too bad from 4 to 5, just 12 hundredths behind Francesco Friedrich and only 4 hundredths off at the start. Top speed from Adam Amour. Oh, but an uncomfortable and untidy labyrinth. 18 hundredths back, late there. Only the third best speed. Flops off 13 as well, and a big skid into 14. Fifth best speed, third at the line, just third at the line. Well, not just, he's 2/10 ahead of Timo Rona, who's now fourth, but 35 hundredths off the lead, 9 hundredths behind Brad Hall. So the Friedrich Masterclass continues. France is in a little class of his own, and everybody else will be battling for the also-rans. Big drift from 12 into 13, corners going left, sleds turning right, and as a result, late on, out of 13. Just gets it off, but gets a big hit on the wall, and that double tap kicks the tail out again. And then into 14. Sure, Issam in the back was feeling all of that movement. So from Adam Amour, our top 10 has Friedrich, Hall and Amour in the top 3 positions. 11th starter here in Lillehammer, Li Chunjian of China. 20th last year with his new brakeman this year, 18-year-old Shi Yalong, who has done 6 races so far this season, i.e. all of them. 5:15 is the start. These early corners, so important to keep the speed alive, so important to steer as little as possible through them when you're going at much lower velocity than further down. 10th best speed. He's the 11th sled. He's in 11th position at the moment. Still the 10th best speed. Not tidy at all from Li Chunjian. You can hear as well as see the problems. 51.51. So a second back. 8 hundredths behind Jacobs Kalender, who's currently in 10th. So our early starters, Mihai Tentea still 6th, Sun Kai Chi, who was 3rd out, is 5th, and Pat Norton, who was 2nd out, is 9th out of the 11. So the early ice helped them, whether they had knowledge of the track or not. They certainly had a good playing surface, mind you. So did Lee, did not make the most of it. A little bit like Patrick Baumgartner, Lee on the right there, and Shi Yalong on the left. Looks like the tail of the dog was doing a lot of wagging on Lee's sled. Next up, Hansi Lochner, Georg Fleischhauer, the track record holders. They won the race here last year. 71st two-man World Cup for Hansi, 16th for Georg. 14 medals together in Georg's previous 15 starts with Johannes Lochner. They start 4.97, but immediately drop into the red behind Francesco Friedrich, starting the same speed as Friedrich and Schuller. And so now Lochner's got to outdrive him. Friedrich was untidy in the labyrinth. Hansi is as well. Makes the same mistakes. Taps going into 9, late out of 10. 12.13 will be key to speed at the bottom. He's got good speed, it's a few hundreds. Comes late off 13, gets a big skid. Second best speed. Not going to catch Friedrich, doesn't, 700s back. But we have a 2-horse race on our hands. Well, whatever else we know, with Friedrich first and Lochner second, neither of them had the tidiest run, and they still kept their speed up. Matthias Scheffler going, hey, come on, what are you doing, guys? Georg Fleischhauer a little ambitious on the brakes. Great power step getting in. And again, just a little skid, 13 to 14. Bumping on, 12 to 13, bumping on to 13. And then a big hit coming out of 13 up to 14. Not the tidiest drive from Hansi Lochner or Francesco Friedrich. They are 1-2. Next up, Frank Del Duca back with Manuel Mitchell. They were the 5th place finishers last year. This is Manuel's 6th two-man World Cup. It's Frank's 19th as a driver. Last year, they both found this track for the first time. 5.11, decent start. 4th place last time out in a two-man race in St. Moritz. Best result of the season so far. And of course, in a few weeks' time, we head across the Atlantic to the World Championships in Lake Placid. Very much home ice for the American teams. They will all be really hoping to do well. 8th at the start, up to 7th on the splits. 4300s back. Whoa, long drift from 14. How much did that cost him? Up to 6th position. Is this going to be top 5 at the line? It's not quite. 51.06. Shauna Roebuck watching there from the top. Helping with the coaching in the lead into the World Champs. Fifth place last year, 100th of 5th in the first heat. 5.11 start, not as quick as perhaps they were expecting. Manuel Mitchell didn't look happy, did he? Yeah, slipped away from the block, got no traction at all for the first 3 or 4 steps. Am I doing all this bumping? Frank can feel Manuel's weight on the sled, slowing it down as they start to accelerate. Just wanted to make sure his brakeman was there. He said, I wanted to make sure.
From Korea,
We all know the story of Francesco Friedrich's brakeman not making it in on his World Cup debut in St. Moritz. Kim Jin-soo and Kim Hyung-yong of Korea. 9th World Cup as a driver for Kim Jin-soo. 9th as a two-man brakeman for Kim Hyung-yong. First time here. Well, you have to learn every track at some stage. You hope that you will learn most of them in your junior career. That's not the way it worked here for Kim. Good strong start. 5.02, just left them 500ths off the lead, but already 3/10 out. And with half a dozen training runs, and that's spread over 2-man and 4-man, really making this up as he goes along. Yes, these drivers are good at reacting and learning fast, but nothing beats experience. 7500s back in 11th place, 51.25 run. So ahead of Pat Norton, Jacobs Kellender and Lee Chun-jan. And with 25 sleds in the first heat, only 20 going through, I think that might be enough to get him in. Skid 12 to 13. Again, sled drifting over and aiming right when the corner was going left. Backing it in like that is a way of slowing down a car or a motorcycle. Don't think it makes any difference whether it's a bobsleigh or not. So plenty to learn here still for Kim. Next up, Boris Vath with Antoine Rieu, 11th place last year here. It's Big Boris's 12th World Cup start as a driver, 8th for Antoine. Antoine's last World Cup two-man was in Winterberg, but he only did the first heat, was injured and pulled out, so it's his second two-man start of the season. He'll be hoping to go the distance in this and get 2 heats in. Boris Vath raced here in Europe Cup in 2022 and last season in the World Cup. So still relatively limited experience. Another week here next week will certainly help top up those knowledge tanks. Little tap 4 to 5. Looking smooth so far. 11th at the start. 9th best speed. Into the top 10. Little late flop. And again. Smooth out of 13, down the Elk straight into 14. And that will help his speed. Yes, it has. Look at that. 4th best speed. Was up to 9th. Is 8th at the line. 51.21. I don't know about you, but I thought maybe the boys are a little bit excited there about that. Don't forget European Championships as well. And so we'll take any Chinese, USA, Canada sleds out of the reckoning. Big Boris 8th place with 1 US and 1 Chinese sled ahead. So he is the 6th European sled at the moment. 8th place run. Good stuff to start things off for Boris Vath. Big height in 15. Didn't control that well coming on. There you are. See, they never remember the good bits. They only remember the bad bits. Francesco Friedrich leads after 15. Mickey Vogt with Andreas Haas behind him. Andy Haas's 20th two-man World Cup race. Mickey Vogt's 51st. 5:11, good starting. Vogt still recovering his speed at the start. Still drive up a storm. Before last year's World Cup, where he finished 4th, he had raced here previously in Europe Cup when he was a mere whippersnapper back in 2017. Obviously the track hadn't changed much in the intervening 7 years, but I expect Mickey Vogt to have forgotten most of what he'd learned. 3600's back, 9th at the start, up to 8th place, 3rd best speed. Not too bad from 13 down to 14. Into 15, little spike early on, 5th best speed, top 5 at the line. Well, finished in 4th place last season. Out of 13, doesn't try and avoid the hit, just takes the tap, allows the sled to come true. And into 15, that early spike, so you get that, the sled dropping down as it loses that centrifugal force. And then the second wave brings it back up. He mitigated that pretty decently. 17th starter, Adam Baird, with Ollie Butterworth back behind him. The former rugby league star in his 2nd World Cup two-man, made his debut in Winterberg in January. Adam Baird's 8th two-man World Cup race, 7 Europe Cup races on this track in 2021, 2022 and 2023. And using the sled borrowed from Adele Nicol. 5:13 start. Ollie Butterworth before this season had 2 previous Europe Cup races, one in December with Adam Baird, and one with Lamin Dean 3 or 4 seasons back before he left for rugby league. Oh, a little late. Half a second back. 14th at the start, out to 17th place at the moment. Needs to find some speed lower down. Didn't race here last year, so hasn't been on the ice here since 2023. Recovering his composure, up to 15th, and 15th at the line, 51.36. So ahead of Jacobs Calendar and Lee Chun-Jan, and behind Pat Norton, who is in 14th place. Not a bad exit. Crossover into 13, and then off 13, but counter steering as he came down, looking to avoid too much of a tap. So one more to go. Looks likely to make it in on that run. 18th of our 25 starters from Liechtenstein, Martin Krantz with Lawrence Lenhead. The duo have been together right from the start, and this is their 7th World Cup 2-man race. Again, Martin Krantz, like a lot of the drivers you're going to see coming up now, lots of Euro Cup races here. 7 Euro Cup races in 21, 22, 23. He was in all of those. 2 top 20 finishes so far this season. Missed the cut in Altenburg, race 1. 5:32 the start. So although he didn't race here in the World Cup last year, he has had 5 or 6 weeks on the track in previous seasons. The competition level higher here than Europe Cup, and the track probably as fast as it has ever been. Krantz 18th at the start, 18th at the moment. Lee Chun-Jan is currently in 17th, 1.01 seconds off the lead, so he's not going to catch him. Is this enough to put him into the race? 4th best speed, good speed at the bottom, 51.80. I don't see many of the male bobsleigh drivers ducking their head out of the way that the female drivers do. That might be that they're a little taller and can't get down out of the airstream, but you can get down out of the airstream even if you can't vanish entirely. Out of 13, not bad, gets a decent run down into the right-handed 14, and here in 15, holds that pressure and drives it off nicely down towards 16. So Martin Krantz currently 18th out of 18. Is that enough to make the second heat? Only time will tell us. Next up, Taylor Austin and Cyrus Gray for Canada. Taylor's 13th 2-man World Cup. Only the 4th for Cyrus Gray. Made his debut in Park City in December 2022. His last 2-man race was in Altenburg in January 2023. And Taylor Austin, like Pat Norton, has never been here before this, last week. 5:21 getaway. Three World Cup starts so far this season. 19th place, made the field in St. Moritz last time out. A wave at the beginning of 6, into the labyrinth. This is neat and tidy. 18th at the start. So at the moment ahead of Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. 16th best speed. Can he catch Lee Chun-Jan of China? Anybody he can put behind him now is going to help get him into the second heat. Across the line, 18th place. Didn't get to Lee Chun-Jan, but he is ahead of Martin Krantz. So is that going to be enough? Again, we're going to have to wait. We've got 3 World Cup debutants, And another driver who hasn't raced here in a long while. So 6 sleds to go. Pat Norton trying to get in, and big Cyrus Gray. Look at the size of Cyrus Gray. Look, he's twice the size of the bobsleigh, and it's like trying to get the cork back in a bottle on ice at speed. I say just drink the bottle, but you know, that's me. Next up, Andrei Nica for Romania. 5th World Cup start for the Youth Olympic champion 2020. 7 Europe Cup races here for him as well. Mihai Kalantsea, his brakeman in his 5th two-man World Cup. They made their debut together in Altenburg at the start of the season. In and down, a sort of second, more gentle load effort from Mihai Kalantsea at the back. They start 5:21, so tied with Taylor Austin and Cyrus Gray. 18th fastest start. And like their Canadian rivals, they slip out to 19th place on the sprints now. Taylor Austin was able to turn that round a little. At the moment, still ahead of Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein, who was 19th. Smooth-looking lines. Younger athletes in smaller nation teams tend not to have the best of the equipment. That's not a bad-looking drive. 19th of the line. He is ahead of Martin Krantz. First time here in the World Cup, at least, for Andrei Nica. 100th behind Taylor Austin, and that 100th might be important for Taylor Austin and Cyrus Gray. That might be the difference between them making the second heat and not. So any of these little rubs and skids were a fraction of a second shorter, or less of an impact, they would have been ahead. It's all ifs and buts. Late off 13. Don't think he realised quite how late. There's Andrei. So 20 sleds down, the race is full. We have 5 more waiting in the wings. Let's see who gets to go in the second heat. 21st starter for Trinidad and Tobago. Axel Brown, the driver, as ever. Tom Harris from One Rifles in the British Army joins him on the back, makes his World Cup debut. The 26-year-old has done 7 Europe Cup and predominantly North America's Cup races. Made his 4-man World Cup debut in St. Moritz. So now all 3 of the brakemen have made a World Cup start in the 2-man as well, as the Trinidad and Tobago team try and work out their best combinations. 5:23 start, just a couple of hundreds behind Taylor Austin and Andrei Nica, and already up into 19th place ahead of Martin Krantz. Race down, the sleds in front. The more they can put behind them, the higher up the order they will get, more chance of a second heat. 17th best speed. In the top 20 at the moment, ahead of Krantz. 16th best speed. If they can just get even one more sled, it might make the difference. 51.80. Coach Lee Johnson in the red cap. So 51.80. 20th place, tied to the 100th with Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. Axel Brown had 2 Europe Cup races here in the 2023 season. And that is his only experience of the track. Got on to 15 and held the line nicely. See Tom Harris in the back. Is that enough? Well, they'll either both be in or both be out. We'll wait and see. Next up, the first of three debutants, Adam Edelman with Reynars Kirievs behind him, both making their World Cup debut in bobsleigh, because Adam Edelman, beg your pardon, slid skeleton for Israel and went to the 2018 Winter Games for them as a skeleton athlete, but now converted to bobsleigh, started driving in 2021. He's got nearly 30 North America's Cup two-man races under his belt. But first time here in Europe. 20th at the start, out to 21st place. Got early on to 7. Not a bad looking labyrinth, little flop off 9. Through 10 and 11, 18th best speed. They're behind Trinidad and Tobago and Liechtenstein at the moment. First time we've seen a bobsled team from Israel in the World Cup. Certainly, I think, this century, 52-49. So, Bregman Regnars started his career with 10 races for Latvia. He's now 8 for Israel. This is now his 9th for Israel. As part of the Latvian development program, and Adam Edelman, after an initial career in skeleton, up to World Cup and World Championship and Olympic level, now taking up the reins of the bobsleigh. And our second of three debutants, Jakub Zakrzewski of Poland, with Paweł Sarnecki behind him, also making his debut. 32-year-old driver, 30-year-old brakeman. And Jakub, the driver, was a brakeman up until 2019, when Mateusz Luti started driving in 2017 as well. And he too has experience of this track. Brakeman Paweł, 10 two-man Europe Cup starts under his belt. So great to see Poland back in the World Cup with a men's team as well. Been a while since Aleksiu Boron was last representing Poland. For him, Mateusz Luti. Oh, late. Woo! That was close. 18th best speed at the moment. 12th speed at the bottom. It's a good run. And Zakrzewski is going to put himself into the race in 18th spot. Well, not a bad performance at all. Congratulations to our debutants, Jakub Zakrzewski and Paweł Sarnecki. They are in the race at the moment with 2 sleds behind them and only 2 to go. So 18th at the line despite that worrying moment. There's this expression that I can't quite repeat on air in bobsleigh. Let it fly. He let it fly. Yeah, not sure that Paweł was quite aware how close they got until he saw the replay. 2 to go and a 40th World Cup start. A couple of years after he thought he'd had his final World Cup start for Roman Heinrich with Dorian Oterville. They had their last race together in January 2023 in Altenburg. Roman Heinrich returning to bobsledding after finding out that the 2030 games will be based in Albertville, and so they'll be sliding in La Plagne, his hometown. Dorian's 24th two-man World Cup. He's 34, Roman 35, so they will be 40 and 39 respectively heading in to the games in 2030, and that is the plan. That'll get you off the couch. 16th best speed, 16th place for Roman Heinrich. And this is going to put him into the second heat. Smooth lines, 17th best speed, drifting out to 18th, 17th at the line. They are into the second heat. So Robin Heinrich and Big Dodo, Doran Otaville, make it into the second heat. Returned with the four-man in Samaritz, and back with the two-man here. Made his driving debut back in February 2017, and the reason he retired in Samaritz is his first World Championships when he was still a brakeman for Loic Kosterg was in Samaritz in 2013. He retired after the 2023 Worlds and thought, well, that's as good a place as any to call it a day. And then the news of the Games in France. There you go. And our final sled, Jay Dearborn with Kenny Luketa and Pindu. Kenny in his second start. Jay makes his World Cup debut, another former brakeman for Taylor Austin. Driving since 2022, started after the Games in Beijing, and a season and a bit in, he is in the World Cup for Canada. 2 starts as a two-man brakeman. This is all about building for the future, but great to see such an up-and-coming young driver making his debut in the World Cup. 30 years old, brakeman is 29. And he made his debut in Lake Placid back in December 22 in the two-man with Pat Norton. Whoa, and again, little late moment there. 24th at the line, so they do not get a second heat this time out. But Canada have another sled to figure in the reckoning. 52 dead for Jay Dearborn and Kenny Luketa and Pindu. So clinging on at the bottom of the top 20. Taylor Austin and Cyrus Gray. Wouldn't that have been an irony? Taylor Austin was the man who first had Jay Dearborn behind him in a World Cup race. If they had knocked out their teammates, they don't. But André Nika, Martin Krantz and Axel Brown, Jay Dearborn and Adam Edelman do not get a second heat. All right, but they are in the World Cup. They are in the big show. Maybe not the second heat this time, but I'm sure that is the plan for the future. At the top of the pile, separated by just 700s. In second place, Johannes Lochner and Gerhard Fleischhauer. But the leaders, Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schuller. We have a German 1, 2, 4, because Brad Hall lies third, ahead of Adam and Issam Amour. So Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence looking for a podium finish here. 2600s behind. Finished in 6th place together last year, and they have halved that up to 3rd place. So there are the top 20 sleds. Adam Baird in 15, behind Pat Norton. Roman Heinrich in 18th, ahead of Lee Chun-Jan. In 17th, ahead of Lee Chun-Jan. And in 19th and 20th place are rookie Jakub Zakreski of Poland and Taylor Austin of Canada. So they will go in reverse order, 20 down to 1 in the second heat, and that comes up at 2 p.m. local, 1300 GMT, which is 0800 Eastern. Wherever you're watching, thanks for being with us, and we will be back with you in 35 minutes from now. We'll see you then. Bye for now.
Anne? Første eller største?